All right, we are recording. Hi, guys. I am so excited that you have taken the time to spend a little time with Nevada and I on a little bit of education in the cycle and world. So this is a little bit of a prerequisite. We're going to have you watch this and then do a little short assessment afterward. Not a big deal at all. Just want to make sure that you're paying attention and that you have some information going in when we meet Sunday, so that we don't have to spend. When we originally did this, it was a lot. We did live the whole time, and we spent a good 5 hours or maybe a little bit more talking and being together, which is great. But I know that your time is valuable. So we're going to do this. You'll have a little bit of information going in, and then when you come in on Sunday, you will have that information already seeped in good, and you'll be ready for a little bit more information. So that's kind of how we're going to do it. Nevada and I wrote this program together. We're like a perfect little, we work really well together, and we wrote this crank and plank together. So Nevada, tell them a little bit about yourself.
I started working at the Y, I think in 2016. I was a career educator and taught at Homewood High School forever, but I've always been into cycling, and it's kind of the thing that I love to do. And I spend a lot of time on my bike, and I've been teaching cycling, indoor cycling, for a very long time, but I'm also an outdoor cyclist. So this course, when we wrote this thing together, it just pulled something that is really incredibly important to me and my fitness. It pulled it together with the core portion, and it really is a wonderful marriage of those two entities, and it's just part of who I am. So I'm really excited about this course and the way it's impacted our Group X schedule already.
Absolutely. Yes. Awesome. Thanks, Nevada. And I'm Robin Boatman. For those of you that I do not know, I am currently the Group X coordinator at the Hoover YMCA. I have been with the Y since 2001, so a long time. And I've been teaching group fitness for 29 years. So don't try to do the math, because we want to stay young. So don't try to do the math.
But you started teaching when you were 10, I think.
I think so.
So
yeah, that was probably right.
Right?
Yeah. That's good. Yeah, that works. So I pretty much taught anything you can think of. It's kind of evolved, and I like to continue to grow and change and do things. So cycling is something that I've been teaching for the last 22 of those 29 years. And I love cycling. I used to cycle outdoors a lot until I hurt myself too much. I did more mountains, but that's neither here nor there. So coming from Nevada's background and my background with just fitness in general, I think we, again, like she said, we had kind of have the perfect marriage. So hopefully we can give you some tidbits. I know that not all of you are here today because you are like, I'm going to go teach crank and plank. Some of you guys don't even teach cycling at all. So I applaud you for sticking your toe into something that's a little different, and hopefully you'll have an open mind and think, what can I take that they're teaching me and apply it to what I currently teach, whether it's Pilates or yoga or Y Strong or Y Cross or whatever it is. I think that you always have the opportunity to take one or two tidbits. So hopefully you will do that, as well as take away some continuing education that is free. So that's always good. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little bit about this program before we get into the nitty gritty. So when we were kind of tasked with coming up with this program, most of you guys know that we originally in our programs at the YMCA have Y Ride, Y Cross, Y Strong, Y. And then we have a few programs in some of our other branches that are less male. So you've got some body pump and body combat and that kind of thing. But we wanted, rather than to be quite as watered down, because Y Ride, as you guys know, just like Y Pilates or Y Yoga, can get watered down if you're not specific. So we felt like we needed some more programs that were just more specific in what you were going to get. So when you walk in that class, you know what you're going to get. So we were kind of tasked with this. So Nevada and I sat down and just kind of put our heads together and got real excited because we think it's a fabulous program. But what we want in Crank and Plank is for this program to be an experience. So rather than just going in there and, you know, I took Nevaeh's wild ride class, I took Robin's, I took Rachel's, I took Clever's, and we did this and we did this, them to know I'm going to get this experience and it's going to be consistent, like Chick-fil-A or whatever, the Ritz-Carlton or whatever. You know, you're going to get a consistent experience. And that is what we want in this. So whether you're teaching it or not, learn this so that when people ask you, hey, what is that Crank and Plank? Oh, well, it's just some cycling and some core. It's not. It is so much more. So I want you guys to be educated in that so you can talk to members about that, especially as we move into 2022 and we're trying to expand our program, that we want this to be a very consistent program in delivery and in content and the way we coach it. And we're going to spend a lot of time talking about coaching when we are all together live Sunday. This program is also, and Nevaeh's going to talk to you about it, it's really driven, data driven. So you're going to learn specifics where you can actually tangibly see what's going on rather than just like, well, it felt real hard. It's going to feel real hard too, but you're going to also see numbers. And so that's what makes this program different than just a Y ride class or Y cross class or whatever. It's very specific. So that's kind of what's the thought behind this process. And with the cycling, we thought, what do cyclists need that they don't always get? Well, they spend most of their time in this forward flex position in this sagittal plane. Their spine is curved, their core is not always necessarily engaged, their hamstrings, their hip flexors are usually tight. What are they not getting? Well, a lot of them aren't getting core and they're not getting different planes of motion. And so when we created the core portion, we made it where it would just complement what they were doing on the cycle. Still an intense workout. So it slows down a little bit because their heart rate's been up here. They're going to keep moving and they're going to continue to burn calories throughout this while they're also very intentional in what they're doing with their core. And when we say core, it's not just planks and crunches and side planks and Russian twists, because that's all front of the body. And as a group of exercise instructors, we tend to really overdo that. When we're thinking core, we're thinking glutes, erector spinae, traps, rhomboids, pecs, of course the obliques and the rectus abdominis, but all of that in one package so that you're always getting a balanced workout as opposed to just, oh, I went in there and I worked my core, but it's all front of the body. So perfect marriage, hopefully, and giving some cyclists and really everybody something that they need and they don't necessarily always get. How about that, Nevaeh? Is that good? Anything else?
I want to say when we talk about that core portion, I'm guilty party. During the pandemic, one of the things I did was started yoga, and it really made me a better athlete on the bike because it forced me to do something that literally was uncomfortable for me because I was so tight, just like Robin is explaining. And so those of you that are in this course, if you're Pilates or yoga or any of those instructors, the core portion is going to completely, I guess, hyper focus our cyclists and our athletes that are focused on the front side. It's going to take them where they need to be, and maybe where they're uncomfortable going, but where they need to be. You might have heard that there's fusion classes that are on our Group X schedule, and don't confuse this with a fusion class. Will you talk about that a little bit, Robin, and how this is different than just a regular old, not that anything's bad or wrong with fusion class, but this is not a fusion class. This is not what it is.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that up. Yes. So we are lucky enough now to have some fusion classes on the schedule, which I think is awesome because it allows us to not be so boxed in, which is where we were. It was just kind of boxed in. So I love the fusion classes, but this is not a fusion class in where we are taking two things and just putting them together and going boom. Again, it's super intentional, and you're going to see that in the cycling portion, but you're going to also see that and how we put the core portion together. So super intentional, and we are giving you the program. So rather than you having to spend tons of time figuring it out, we pretty much give you not just the guideline, but the whole map of how to do it. And all you have to think about doing is how to coach it, how to deliver it. But we also teach you how to design that class, where if you did have to design it, you can design it where it fits completely in these guidelines. So it's not just like, hey, go spend 20 minutes on core, figure something out, and hey, you're going to cycle hard and easy for 20 minutes. It's a specific thing. So just like if you went to a, it's just the only thing that comes in my mind is like body pump or a Les Mills program. It's just very specific in what they're giving you, and they are awesome about making you have an experience. Same thing with this, maybe a little more leadway in that we are just, we want you to be you, and we want you to bring your own flavor, but a certain way we coach and that kind of thing. Should I bring up do you want me to show the website, Nevada, real quick?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, perfect.
All right, I'm going to do this. I'm always scared when I share the screen, but we're going to try. So just
you
bear
got
with
this.
me.
You got this.
I got it. Let's see. All right, there's that. Look here. So this Nevada, I would love to say Nevada and I created this, but we didn't. I just give information that goes on it some. Nevada is the one who designed it, and for some reason it's not one. Here it is. And we put all of our information into this website. So those of you who decide to go forward with Crank and Plank because you want to teach it, you will have access to this. The cool thing is, this is just our little homepage. There's an overview, which is what we'll be talking about some today, which is the training packet that you guys have. It's taking a moment to load, but it has the whole training pack, so you can always go to that if you lose your paper copy. And then this is the cool thing for me, is that my computer's all of a sudden decided it wants to take its sweet time. Here we go. So Nevada and I spend a little bit of time every month where we get together, we talk about what we want to do, and then we put a little video out that tells you all the important things that need to be done, that need to be said, how to perform it, how to coach it. So this was like our first one. This was about our FTP, which we're going to talk about. You're going to get a lot of information on that Sunday. This was our September crank portion, our September plank portion. So we take you through everything that you're going to need to do, which is super cool, because if you're like, oh my goodness, I really haven't had time to think about it, you can go watch this video. Typically they're maybe 20 minutes long, and you learn all the stuff that we even have playlist ideas in here. It's super cool. So this is a supported program. I want to say that this isn't one of those programs where it's one and done. I'm going to come and take this, and then I'm kind of off on my own. Nevada and I spend tons of time talking with each other, which, because we like each other, it makes it a lot more pleasant, and we work well together. But we spend lots of time thinking about this. It's not just, and then we spend time talking to you guys. Like, we'll come together and say how it's working, what's not. Here's this plan. What can I do to make it better? So it's constantly supported. So I want you guys to know that it's not just, it may seem like a lot of information at first. It's constantly supported. So know that we're here for you. And it's an awesome program. I'm going to stop sharing, and I'm going to let Nevada pick up. Cool.
All right, y'all. I'm good. You
Okay.
Perfectly explained overview of where we are. I hope y'all understand the importance of this class in general being something that's really not happened before. We've not launched a class that's ours that we've had this kind of support. So it's really kind of cool that we're groundbreaking. And because you're taking this course right now and not in the very beginning, we have a history now of what this course has meant for our members, which has been kind of fun to watch. We have one class that has tripled in size from the time in the beginning, it was a Y-ride class. It transitioned to a crank and plank class, and 3 times as many people are coming to crank and plank than they were Y-ride because they like the format and it's engaging for them. So I think what you're going to find is if you do decide to teach this class, you're going to be well supported, like Robin has said, and you're going to find that the members will dig into it. When I first started teaching at the Y, and we were able to have these cool bikes that had data, it was totally different than what I had been teaching with at the high school, where I had a spin studio at the high school, at Homewood High School, but we didn't have data. We had the old Johnny G bikes. And if we wanted to count RPMs, we had to bump our knee against our fist to find out how many RPMs per minute. And, you know, we didn't have any power data. And so you didn't understand, or you didn't know what kind of wattage the bike was producing, or you were producing with your effort on the bike. I had heart rate monitors and everything was heart rate based. But as you know, if you're wearing a heart rate monitor, there's a delay between your work and the response to your watch or to whatever heart rate monitor that you're wearing. But with wattage, there's no delay. If you push harder, you get an immediate response on that monitor. So what I want to really encourage you to do as you think about this course is think about what gets measured, gets managed, and data is critical to this course. And it's critical to our members. So if you're into data, you're going to love this. If you're not into data, if you've been to a cycle class and you've put your towel over the monitor, you're going to be forced to remove that towel and look at data to be successful in this course. But once we take them there, y'all, once we get them there, they will love it because it's individualized data. It's not generalized data. It's specific for the individual. And they're going to see improvements. They're going to see they're getting stronger, and they're going to get that feedback from you as their coach and from the numbers that they're going to see on their monitor. So I just want to stress the fact that the monitor is an important and critical piece of this course, the crank portion of this. The other critical piece that separates this is, and Group X classes in general, you should be doing some coaching. Maybe in Group X class, you feel a little bit more like it's follow the leader. And Robin's been teaching Group X a lot longer than me. I've been coaching all of my life. So as a coach, I didn't go out there and do right-handed layups with my basketball team. I coached them, I instructed them, I explained to them how to, I might have demoed a little bit, but more than anything, I coached them. So this class is more of a coaching class and less of a performing class, so to speak. You need to always remember the awesome opportunity that we have as coaches, because not many people get to have that influence on lives. And we get to have that in this class and in all of Group X, but especially in this class. So I'm going to dig in a little bit to that monitor and to the data and what's up with the watt. Watt, as in W-A-T-T, is the watt. That is the power meter measurement. And we're going to talk about results here. So that watt that you see, the power, the number that you see is a measurement of your work. And when we use that as a tool, it helps us talk to our athletes a little bit differently. And using that as a tool to help them be motivated is what we're talking about here. So the monitor, I can't say it enough, it's critical to success. This class is a HIT class. HIT is a huge buzzword. It's an acronym. We've heard it all along. High intensity interval training. We've heard it for years. And somewhat, you may think that what you've been doing in Y-Ride is HIIT. For the most part, it is not. For the most part, what is happening in a Y-Ride class, it's not all the way down to steady state, but y'all, it's not much above steady state for many of our participants. We may see a little bit of improvement with wattage. Of course, they're not really looking at it. What they're looking at for the most part is caloric burn. Let's just be real. You've heard it. Your people have come to you and say, man, I really like this class because I burned X number of calories. We've all heard that. We know that's what, if there's any sort of measurement that our participants get into, it's that caloric burn. So what they see in a cycle class, because for 45 minutes to an hour, they're doing almost a steady state. There may be a little bit of a bump up and down with their heart rate, but it's not where it needs to be when we're talking high intensity intervals. Because if it were HIIT, there's no way, y'all, that they could do HIIT for 45 minutes. It couldn't happen on a bike, because you would just burn out. It's just like when we talk about Tabata training. If you do a true Tabata, if you go as hard as you can in a Tabata, you can't rep those things out. I mean, it's just not, it's not real. An effort that we're talking about is where they're out of their comfort zone, completely out of their comfort zone. It is totally different. And when you get there, when you experience this, because y'all are going to experience this Sunday. And when you do, it takes you somewhere that you've not been. And when you finally experience it, then you will have a better understanding of how to take your athletes there. But it's totally different than a steady state. How else can I say that, Robin, to get that point across? Is there something else, some other thing that I should say to get that point across?
I don't think so. I think in this class, and I know you'll talk about it more when we talk about perceived rate of exertion, which we'll really hit on when we're in person, but you spend your time at the top of that scale that we use is 1 to 10. You spend your time up at the top. You're either there or you are at the bottom. We're not on a 2-minute hard, slightly anaerobic hill. You are either or you're trying to recover from that. So it's a very small little place where you're going to be.
Yeah. And so therefore you maybe have a little bit, now that you understand how intense the cycling portion is, you get it, because we can't do it for 45 minutes. So when Robin and I were putting this course together, we're like, okay, we're going to teach a true HIIT class on the bike. We're going to be in there for 20 minutes on the bike max. What are we going to do for the other half? Well, what perfectly partners with that is the plank portion. Now you get the time breakdown a little bit better. We can't do it for 45 minutes, y'all. We literally physically can't do it. If we take them where they're supposed to go, you can't go that hard for that long. So what we're talking about here is a true HIIT class. The reason HIIT is so popular right now, and I'm going to go over a couple of, maybe 3 reasons why it's so popular. And, you've heard of Iron Tribe, all the CrossFit boxes, those are HIIT classes. And why it has become so virally, incredibly popular right now. There's a lot of reasons, but first thing is it's not boring. You're totally not going to be bored. So when you come in there, you know that you're going to have a focused training plan, and there is not one moment that you're going to be going, hey, I wonder what I'm going to cook for dinner tonight, or I wonder what's going to happen on Netflix. You just can't do it. Your brain doesn't have time to go there because you're trying to survive the thing. So it decreases boredom. The second thing I want to tell you is that there's a smaller time commitment. You're not going to be there for an hour cranking out on a bike. It is a smaller time commitment. We're only going to hold them there for 45 minutes, and only half that time they're going to be on the bike. when I've subbed for Molly's class at Mountain Brook Y, this member comes up to me afterwards and she said, there's no way I would come to a Y ride class. I just don't like cycling, but I love this class. I'm like, okay, well, we got her, because she says, I don't want to be on a bike for 45 minutes, just sitting there spinning. But I love this class because it's engaging. It's a smaller time frame. It decreases the boredom. And then this third reason that I want to talk through is epoch. I told you a few seconds ago that the one thing that's quantitative that has to do with the amount or the thing that they want to measure is caloric burn. So when they finish this class on the bike, they may only see that they've burned a couple of hundred calories max. And I'm talking max. Let's say this. First of all, the monitor that they're looking at for the burn, for the caloric burn, is not focused on their body type, their gender. There's no way that they can actually get a good number from that. So let's just debunk that myth in the beginning, that monitor is not a true indication of the amount of calories that they burn. But the second thing that you need to know is something called EPOC, and it's another acronym, and it stands for excess post-oxygen or post-exercise oxygen consumption. Excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. A lot of words right there. EPOC means that after you finish a workout, you continue to burn calories. The cool thing about HIIT classes is you continue to burn calories at a higher rate than any other type of training. It is scientifically based. All kinds of research out there that explains it. I'm going to explain it to you like this, though. If you drive your car, today is Sunday, and if you went on a Sunday drive and you just cruised in your car about 30 miles an hour, after you parked your car, even if you went for an hour out there for an hour, you cruised for 30 miles an hour, and then you parked your car, how long would it take that car to cool down back to its level of where it's supposed to be? And that level that I'm talking about is homeostasis, which all of our bodies work at a base level, and that's homeostasis. So at that base level, how long would it take that car to cool down? Compare that to if you got in your car and you went out here and you floored it as fast as 0 to 60 in 5 seconds, and then you backed off, and then you went 0 to 60 for 5 seconds and then backed off. If you did that over and over and over again, even if the time frame was shorter, and then you parked your car, it would take a lot longer to come back down to homeostasis. So that time that it takes for you to come back down to homeostasis, you are continuing to burn calories at a higher rate. So when your people start talking about, well, I didn't burn but like 150 calories during your crank class today, you can say, yeah, but check out EPOC, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. So I'm going to try to spin this around. You may not be able to see that, but I'm going to talk you through it. There's a glare, so we're going to try to see as best we can. But so EPOC is the top. I've got it written out there, excess post-exercise oxygen consumption. But there are 4 things underneath there that I'm going to talk through. Number 1, increased oxygen consumption, increase caloric burn during and after the exercise session. So just like we said, that car 0 to 60 in 5 seconds and then back down. Imagine that is a person, and they sprint from, standing to as fast as they can, 50-yard dash, as fast as they can, and then they walk back to the starting line, and they rep that over and over and over again. The oxygen consumption that they do during those sprints is going to be much greater than if they just ran laps around the track. Because of that, before they finish coming back down, before they reach homeostasis, they're burning calories longer because of the increased caloric consumption during the workout. The number 2 thing here, HIIT is the most effective way to produce EPOC. It's better than steady state, it's so much more effective and longer lasting than steady state. So HIIT is a HIIT. That's, we talked about that being the reason why people are into HIIT. Number 3, EPOC is influenced by intensity, not duration. So it's not the amount of time that you do these reps, it's how intense, the intensity of these reps. And number 4, there is a 6 to 15% increase in caloric burn because of EPOC. So all of that to say, when you're trying to convince your people about why this class is a HIIT because of HIIT, you should be able to completely own and explain EPOC. If nothing else, give them the car example. Let them know, because after you stop, you're still burning calories at a higher rate. It is crucial for an understanding, because they're not going to see the same caloric burn on that monitor. That's not going to be there. But what happens afterwards is huge. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Robin, anything else about EPOC or HIIT or convincing people?
I don't think so.
All right.
Will you repeat your number 4 for me real quick?
Yep. So after EPOC, excess post-oxygen consumption, there is a 6 to 15% increased caloric burn after you finish working out. So if we did that sprint workout and then you finished it, you walked away from the track, you're going to burn 6 to 15% more calories than if you had just run laps on the track. So if you go to a cycling class, when you come to crank class, 6 to 15% more calories after they step away from the bike than if they came to a Y ride class, which doesn't really take them where we're about to take them. Big, huge impact. And that is all the way until your body comes back down to homeostasis. And homeostasis doesn't mean you just stop breathing hard. Homeostasis is extended past when you catch your breath. So it's not just after you've caught your breath, it's furthermore even past the workout that we're trying to get to.
Yeah.
So convincing those people of that will be critical. And you're going to have to convince people about EPOC that aren't coming to this class. You're going to have to convince people about the HIIT class being fun and engaging. It's going to be people that aren't coming to class. So talk to people in the gym, let them know what this class is about. Y'all are the best commercials for the class because you understand it. You're going to get it. You're going to experience it, and you're going to understand what it feels like to go there, to be out of that comfort zone. Some people think they get there in a Y ride class. They really don't. So how do we measure this? And I'm going to talk about 2 different things, 2 different ways that you can measure effort. And the first one is something that you might have seen in cycling classes, and it's the rate of perceived exertion chart. We're going to talk about this today, but we're also going to circle back to this when we get you in person, because we're really going to dive into the coaching aspect when we get you in person. But so there's 2 different ways to measure your effort in class. The first way we're going to talk about here has to do with the qualitative results, if you want to call it that. So if you've been in a research class, there's qualitative and quantitative. This is qualitative. So the quality of the work is measured on an RPE scale, a rate of perceived exertion scale of 1 to 10. Underneath,
can you share that?
Yeah, if you can, that'd be great. So Robin's,
I'm coming back. Stay with me.
There we go. You're getting quicker at that.
Oh no, look, I don't have anything.
It's just slow.
There it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Bam. All right. So this RPE, rate of perceived exertion, I feel like everything we're talking about is acronyms. It's like being in the military or something. So this RPE scale that you're looking at, scale of 1 to 10. Robin said this earlier. You're pretty much at the top of the scale on your efforts and at the very bottom of this scale on your recoveries. And there's not much time in the middle there at all. It's either top out or level out at the bottom. The max effort, the reason we're able to go up there is because of the time frame that we're hitting. It's not a 3-minute climb to the top of a hill, like Robin was saying, or a 2-minute climb to the top of a hill. We're talking 5 or 10 seconds going as hard as you can to get you there. So that max effort is the top end. And then when it's time to come off, when it's time to back off, they back off very, very, very low at the bottom end. So we're going to talk through what is a sprint, what is a surge, what is recovery, and what is sweet spot. Those 4 things are really important. And we're going to relate that to the rate of perceived exertion chart. So if you're coaching a sprint, it's going to be 30 seconds or less. You can relate this to the very end of a race. If you are within where you can see the finish line of a race and you've got 2 cyclists to get in front of, and you've got 30 seconds or less to get there, that RPE is 9 to 10. It's that hard. You can't possibly hold this thing for longer than 30 seconds. You can't talk. You can't say anything. You might could make some grunting noises, but you really can't talk there. It would be impossible for you to keep going at this effort. That's where we're taking them on a sprint. Then if we back off of that a little bit on a surge, it's greater than 30 seconds, less than 1 minute. We're still anaerobic, and anaerobic is just an all-out effort. Your RPE, your rate of perceived exertion, is about an 8. You're still up there. It's shortness of breath. You can speak maybe a sentence, but it is in short words. It's really, really miserable to be there. And then, awesome. I know, y'all are like, well, I'm not coming to class now. This is going to hurt. But then if we have recovery, so really sprint and surge is pretty much what you're doing in HIIT class. The other aspect is your recovery, and you have to earn this. It has to be something that you have sprinted or surged to the point where you cannot continue. The only thing that is left to do at this point is that you recover. You have to earn this though. 0 resistance. The pedal is turning, but there's absolutely no power. You're coming all the way back down to the very bottom of the chart, RPE 1. The other component that you're going to coach through is called sweet spot. In this sweet spot, you're still working. Your RPE is like 7 or 7.5. And this is something, your sweet spot, that you can do for a pretty good while. It's not something that is miserable. This is where you feel really strong. And those are the 4 areas, but the most important thing is the sprint, the surge, and the recovery. Those are the 3 areas that you're going to be spending most of the time in during this class. What else about that, Robin?
I think you have it. I think, what's important to remember is for all of us, and I know some of us have taken classes, or maybe we've even coached classes where we're like, we're going to sprint. Let's go. How long's your sprint? It's 45. It's a minute. It's 45 seconds. You're really not sprinting. A sprint is 100%. You leave it on the floor. You see that number go beep, 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 and then it immediately starts going you can't hold on to it. So I think getting that in our brain as we coach sprints in general, even if it's in a wild ride class, that you can't sprint for a minute and a half. You can't do it. And then even a surge should be very hard work where you're going 30 seconds or more, but you're not going to surge for 3 minutes. You can't do it. There's very little time in this class. In that pretty little green right there, you might go green as you up in the warm up, but you're going to quickly pass green to get to that sweet spot. So to get to that and try to find kind of a little bit of a breathless place. So I think that 7-8 is that place where we train. So if you stayed at a 7, I think you would be probably endurance for the most part. Yes. So you can hang there, but if you start to push to an 8 where maybe you're just tapping the roof of the 9, maybe that's where you start to get breathless and start to really use that anaerobic energy zone. So just remember that sweet spot, we will be in that, but not a ton. It's going to be nines and tens, and sometimes coming back to a 7 or 8, which is really hard to do because you want to go right back down to the 1 or a 2. But remembering that you're pretty much recovering or you're working real hard.
And most of our classes, y'all, let's just be real. Most of our classes hang out in the sweet spot. I mean, that's where they've been living. They might tap in a little bit into very hard activity, but it's pretty much sweet spot training. That's where they are. Mm-hmm. It's not really what we hoped that cycling would be forevermore. We hope that we take them sometimes to that max effort, but you can't do that for 45 minutes. So most of what you see in our regular Y-Ride classes is somewhere in that sweet spot, maybe tapping into 9 a little bit. Y'all, I talk to my classes sometime and I tell them, I want to see your ugly face. That's what I want to see. I want to see you look very uncomfortable. This should totally look different than a Y-Ride class. If we took a picture of the participants in a Y-Ride class and we compared it to what it looks like in a crank class, it's 2 different animals, and you got to be able to take them to coach them there. So hopefully that gives you a little bit better understanding of the qualitative, the effort, the exertion based on perceived exertion that you're going to tap into in your coaching. And you also got a better understanding that it's really sprint, surge, and recovery. That's it. That's where we are. The next thing I want to kind of go ahead.
Can I say something? Can I say something just real quick? So
yeah.
I want you guys to also understand that we're not saying that sweet spot's a bad. We need to train the sweet spot the majority of the time that we train. So it's a good thing that we're not hitting those all the time, because we don't need to be up here all the time. That really, that sweet spot, that 7 is what is the foundation of our house. And if we don't have the foundation of our house and we try to put the roof on, it's going to fall in, right? So just understand that we're not saying that oh, I just work in the steady state all the time. That's great. We need that for sure. That's why we don't have crank and plank 5 days a week all over the schedule, because there are crazy people out there that would think they could do it 5 days a week all the time, and their bodies really can't do it. They really can't if they haven't sufficiently had recovery. So just know sweet spot's great, 7, 8's good, 4, 6 is good. This is just going to be a specific class where we do hit that other place some.
Oh, that is great information, Robin. Thank you for saying that, because if we do train them this hard 5 days a week, they're going to get injured, or this class becomes watered down just like everything else. So they need to understand there's a difference, but there's a place for both. You can't possibly do this 5 times a week. You just can't. Not if you're doing it correctly. That's beautiful. All right. So that's the rate of perceived exertion. That's the qualitative aspect. Now we're going to talk about the numbers. This is something that, again, it just separates the class, y'all. The majority of our Y-Ride classes that I'm seeing don't really dive into the data like we are going to dive into the data during this class. You're going to have an exact number for wattage goals based on an assessment that your participants are going to have, and it is individualized for them. The cool thing about that is they're going to take an assessment once a month. We're going to be able to chart that data because they're going to turn the data in. That data gets charted over time, and we get to see their improvement. Now, when they turn in data, it's not something that everybody gets to see. You will get to see it as their coach. You will get to coach them up on how much they've improved. But the members won't be able to see each other's data. So it's really important that they understand that there's privacy involved here when they do turn in their results from the assessment. So what this looks like when we measure is we measure the wattage, the power on the bike that they are producing. A watt is just a measurement of work. That's all that it is. It is how much work is being transferred to the bike, and the results are driven and show up on that monitor. A lot of times people have resistance to resistance and they don't want to turn right. What you've got to coach them up on is if you turn right, your power goes up. And that is what we're shooting for, is higher power, is getting stronger, is getting more fit. And seeing those numbers improve is something that you can encourage your participants to train for. And they'll see that as results when they take that assessment once a month. We will take you through an assessment on Sunday. You will get to see what your power is, how much power you can produce on the bike. And it's an experience, y'all. I can't explain it any other way than just say it is an experience. We will play a specific song that will take you there. Not that it's beat driven, because it's definitely not, but it just is a song that's going to get in your head. It's going to make you want to go hard. And that's the effort that we're going to need. This assessment that we're going to take is called an FTP. It is it's not really an acronym because it's not a word within a word, but it's functional threshold power. And it is the max power that you can produce for an amount of time. And the amount of time that we're going to talk for this assessment is 5 minutes. Now, we just coached you up and we just told you that we're going to be in these short intervals throughout all of our classes. And we are for the training plans that we create. But for the assessment, we do a 5-minute assessment all out. You go as hard as you can for 5 minutes. At the end of that 5 minutes, we will take 85% of that to find out, if we did that test for an hour, what would be the power that you could produce. Because you would not want to do this for an hour. We don't make you do it for an hour. We only take the 5-minute assessment, and we take 85% of that power to come up with what your power would be for the hour. So that assessment, that 5-minute assessment, we then kick back to your members, to your participants, what they would need to sprint to, what they would need to surge to, a zone that they would surge to. So they get these individualized goals based on the FTP assessment. So that's what we're shooting for, is to give them that feedback based on their level of intensity during class. So when you take that assessment, you'll see where you are, and then you coach them up and you say, all right, you scored I'm just going to use a number, I'm going to throw out 200. You scored a 200 watts. You were able to produce 200 watts as your average power for 5 minutes. When we reassess, when we take this test again in 4 weeks, I want you to shoot for 205. You see how it's getting in their heads? They have a goal in mind that they can train for over the 4 weeks to give them a little bit more incentive to keep coming back to your class. And maybe you coach them up to come to some other classes at our gym to continue to train, because you now have become their coach. It really does give them incentive behind what they're doing. It is not just your regular class. There's some incentive-based effort there based on data that you're going to collect. But we'll take that FTP assessment next week on Sunday. And we know who you are, so you have to show up.
Absolutely.
All right. What else, Robin?
Let's see. We have all this, right? We did all this.
Yes.
I think that's pretty much, if you're not a cyclist and you're not familiar with the monitor, I mean, I know some of this is probably like Greek to you. So we will coach you up on that Sunday and let you take a look and see what that monitor means and what it is and all the fun things it can do. And really thinking about how we can, and maybe even as you guys, take this and then go take the little assessment and kind of marinate on this throughout the week, because I know that's what you're going to do, right? You're just gonna consume me. Thinking about how you can be a better coach, how I can tell someone what it feels like to be at a 9, to what it feels like to be at a 10. Because so much of this class is being able, as Nevada said in the very beginning, is being able to coach. So she might have demonstrated how to do a layout, but she didn't continue to do it with them. She's got to be able to tell them all the nuances and when the flick. I don't do layups because I'm 5'3". So, but like
That's
your
all
wrist
good.
and I don't know, all that stuff. So it's not about how she can do it, but it's how she can get them there. So really thinking about the journey and how you can take them there. That's what makes this experience different. Besides the fact that we measure this class, that's one of the things that makes it different, is that we coach this class. We don't just teach this class or demonstrate this class, we coach it. How this should feel, where this should be, what should be going on in your brain. So maybe kind of marinate on that. Like, what are some different ways? How can you take people different places in their brain? What should a surge feel like? What should a sprint feel like? That kind of thing. Yeah. So just, kind of marinate on that as you come into next Sunday. Anything you can think of there, Nevada?
I think we're good. I will say that from the very beginning, we talked about how this is not a fusion class, but the other portion of this class is critical to the success of anybody, but especially people who are just doing everything front. The cyclist, the runner, the swimmer, everything is on the front side. A lot of our just general athletes in the gym, they come in and they train everything interior. And so when we come in on Sunday and Robin takes you through the plank portion, it will bring it all together. It is so critical. The stronger you are in the plank section, the better cyclist you become, the better athlete you become, the more fit you become, the more balanced you become, all of those things. So we talked all about the crank portion today, but that plank portion is coming at you Sunday. It's coming at you.
It is. And I think it is, like Nevada said, it's critical. I think it's critical for all of us. And I think that's one portion that whether you teach cycle or not, if you're teaching Pilates or yoga or Y cross or Y strong class, I hope that it will make you reevaluate, look at the way you are planning a class so that you are truly doing what you need to do and giving your members what they need, as opposed to just what you perceive as hard, but what they need to build a strong body, to have strong back and not injured shoulder joints and that kind of thing. So hopefully, I think a lot of times we get so hung up on hard, which this class is hard, I'm not gonna lie to you. But we also really need to think about, they put their trust in me. And if all I do is have them do push-ups and planks and Russian twists and I don't know what else, burpees, then I've just completely neglected the whole posterior chain. And I have burnt their shoulders out, and I'm really not giving them, there was no transverse plane, there's no rotation. So, well, except for that Russian twist, it was. But really, really designing a class. So I hope that you guys will take that away from it. I do want to say this. So when you come Sunday, please dress prepared to work. Come dressed for success. And that would be a successful, because we're going to do an FTP, we're going to do a sprint test, and then we're going to do an actual class so that you can experience this and see what it feels like. So, I get, like, we all come sometimes. I've been to plenty of workshops where I'm like, I'm just going to kind of screw around and not really do this. You can, but I would really like it if you guys are able to come in there and give me what you can, I think you're going to feel, you're going to understand it, you're going to feel it, you're going to know what we're talking about. So if you can get a good night's rest and drink plenty of water, you know, do that. Come in, have on your clothes, bring a change of clothes in case you get too sweaty and you feel like you need to change while we're, and you don't want to be cold. Because I will say this, it is always cold at the Hoover YMCA. So layer yourself when you come Sunday, bring sweatshirts and things like that, and know that you're going to be chilly. Bring water, be prepared, and let's just do this. I'm excited to, I know some of you guys already and some of you guys I don't, so I'm excited to meet you and just have a fabulous crank and plank experience. Is that all you got, Nevada? You think that's it?
I think we're ready to roll. Yep, 1 o'clock.
1 o'clock.
Ready to roll.
Dress for success. And if you can get there a few minutes before, we'll be in the cycling room at Hoover. And we've got it slated from 1 to 4. So we're just gonna do our stuff and hey, marinate on this. And if you come up with some ideas, Nevada and I are always open. So we'll see you. And please look for an assessment coming at you in the next day or so. You can take that while, you know, as soon as you watch this, you can take it at the end. We just ask that we receive it by Saturday, this Saturday, the 4th, by noon, so that we have it all in. We can make sure that we have it graded or whatever. And then moving forward into Sunday, we have all that information. So do it anytime this week. It's not going to be 100 questions or anything like that. So don't stress about it. Just things that we want to kind of reiterate and hopefully you paid attention to in this lovely video. Is that it?
We're good.
All right, Nevada, hang on and I'm going to stop recording. We'll see you guys Sunday. Wait, that's the share. That's not the right one. There's so many buttons to push. One more time, I'll see you guys Sunday.